Hey y'all, welcome to World Cup Interviews, the best place to get insight to the competitive scene of Horus Heresy Legions. My name is Varuna. I'm a member of the Brotherhood, one of the top 10 performing lodges out there. I also make guides on YouTube. Joining me today is Mercury, team captain for Australia. How are you doing?
What's up? I'm doing pretty swell, even though Rubus Moon just whipped me.
Tell me, how did you come up with your name?
Well, my name in-game isn't actually Mercury, it's Big PP, and that was actually a throwaway. I didn't actually expect to play this game long, and well, I don't know, it's been 2 years, so I guess it just stuck.
How long have you been playing the game for?
Roughly 2 years. I joined 2019, around about July.
Who are your teammates, and how long have you known them?
So my teammates are Vapix and Fulgrim14. I haven't known Fulgrim personally that long because he got Warmaster quite a while back and then he just dropped out of the game for about a year, which was about the time I was active. But Vapix I've known for quite a bit. Not fully personally until quite recently, in the last 5 months or so. But I've known him on and off because, he would stream, I'd drop in, would say hi, all sorts of stuff. So I've known Vapix quite a bit longer.
What's been your experience playing card games prior to Horus Heresy Legions?
Well, I was a big fan of the Yu-Gi-Oh series when they were airing on TV. For context, I'm 22, and those were on TV when I was about 10 or so. I started collecting those cards and playing them with my classmates. It started around then.
So the three warlords you chose for the World Cup were Astalan, Mandragorax, and Aemon Teramachian. Why did you choose those three?
So Astalan I picked because he's a very brutal and flexible warlord for those who are trying to stall out the game and go for a big value swing. I figured it would be quite beneficial against the slower decks like Thale when he was threatening, and Ahriman, which I expected to see a lot more of. He's also just a very flexible warlord. I picked Mandragorax because of his ability to handle most threats pretty cleanly in the early game, because one of the biggest threats in World Cup is taking lethal reach from your opponent because of all the pressure they put on you early that you weren't able to deal with. So it was more about stopping that from becoming a problem while dealing your own burn in advance. Aemon Machine is just a monster. He is absolutely insane. I've killed so many unprepared opponents just because they didn't expect me to be dealing about 15-20 damage on about 6 energy. He just kills people so quickly, but he's very flawed in the sense that stealth or precognition will just stop him in his tracks.
What kind of mindset do you have prior to playing a match?
When I play the match, I try to remove myself from the outcome of winning or losing and just look at the player objectively. I try to approach it from a sense of a puzzle. There's no winning or losing a puzzle, you just need to deconstruct it. This has worked sometimes because I've accurately sort of puzzled them out, you could say. But it's also failed because they've surpassed my expectations, or they've done something I wasn't expecting, kind of changing up the game or spicing it up a bit too much for me.
How are you and your team doing overall? Do you have any regrets?
Yeah, well, I think every team has regrets because we're currently third. So we're going to qualify by the looks of it. We might not, it depends. But we're looking pretty good. And in terms of regrets, there's a lot of mistakes I've made personally. But I've had some fantastic teammates backing me up. So while I've done pretty well overall, I'm definitely above the halfway point in terms of players. There are still things I could have done much better.
Who do you consider to be your rivals in the World Cup?
Rivals. Well, I have the most history with Spellbreaker. Now match is coming up. So I'd say maybe Spellbreaker. I have a great deal of respect for a lot of players that I'd like to beat. But if you were talking rivalry, yeah. And I've got a friendly thing going on with Pirate Lahey as well. He's currently the head of Masterclass, if anyone didn't know that.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned competing so far?
That is a tough one. I've had some time to think about this, but still I can't give you a great answer straight away. But I can say that the World Cup has given me a lot of dense experience very quickly. When you play ladder, when you want a broad range of experience, you have to play for a long period of time because you're waiting for the meta to change. But in World Cup, it's like everyone's kind of already got this zigzagging set of deck archetypes and builds and counter picks and stuff that you really have to navigate quite quickly. And there's not many ways that you can prepare for it without having a lot of experience doing that already.
Which warlords have you struggled the most against in the World Cup?
Kona, quite easily. It's not anything in particular other than it's just a little bit too much to deal with everything Narcona does quite early on, and then it cascades quite fast enough for him to have a game-ending threat pretty quickly.
Yeah, he is kind of polarizing because his whole game plan is quite a bit unique. It's kind of similar to Iota from the Agents of the Sigilite faction, where he kind of switches abilities every time he uses it. So it's hard to kind of play around him, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Oh, he's similar to Nassau back when you couldn't avoid playing a board and Nassau could just hide in precognition forever. Something like that. You really have to work around his triggers, and sometimes you just can't.
So the nerf to Sisters of Silence and a few other cards just came out. What are your thoughts on the current balance of the game? What would you nerf or buff?
Yes, so there's definitely quite a few things that have gone under the radar because of the new release. So with the Sisters of Silence, I actually think it was too harsh. I'm not kidding. So the problem has always been that they were overvalued, as everyone knows, and all their tools did too much immediately. The main problem was with Kroll, who just gave them more on top of that. So more upon more upon more. Obviously, it just gets out of control too quickly because there's so much free value. But yeah, it just made the faction more dependent on Kroll. What I would like to see nerfed in future, we still need an answer to Last Cutter from the Knights. It's still very polarizing for the meta. They're still quite overrepresented. And we've also got the Corn's Favor thing. I mean, you can deal with it technically, but it just alienates a lot of decks that would be quite viable without it being out there.
And I assume you're probably in favor with something being done to Crucial Choice. A lot of people find that card quite polarizing too.
Yes. Yeah. It is very problematic.
What would you do to exactly nerf the card? The opportunity
Crucial Choice?
Yeah, Crucial Choice.
I mean, this is a tough one. I don't want to just revert it to its previous state, because it was a terrible card, and I think all cards should be playable to an extent. But perhaps maybe it could play like an immediate dewback effect. You get a choice of 3 from the enemy deck, and you pick something out of that. I know it's not a much better solution, it still runs in the same vein of problems, but at least you're not going to see Kroll play Vengeful Spirit. You know what I mean? It's a tone down that allows us to move forward with further changes along the line, but it still keeps the flavor and identity of the card.
Who is your favorite Warlord to play, and who is the Warlord you hate fighting against the most?
In general?
In general, yeah, in ranked ladder or whatever.
Favorite Warlord to play is Perturabo. It sounds strange. I mean, you're like, oh yeah, Perturabo. But I used to play him back before the changes, back before the burn decks were viable. I used to play him as a troop deck. And that was a fuckload of fun for me. I don't know why, it just was. I had a lot of flexibility with my choices with Perturabo's Wrath, the finishes, going for Whispers. There's a lot of things you could do, especially before the Arcology nerfs way back when. He's still my favorite, but I just don't play him anymore because the only viable deck is Burn, and I fucking hate that. My least favorite Warlord, it's Cerastus Aethergen. I don't like Knights. It's not a typical bias where it's like, oh, they beat me too much. It's more, they're playing a very particular kind of game, and unless you're kind of meeting them on that wavelength, you're not going to be able to compete against them. So it's very limiting to how you're allowed to play, and that's how they win most of their games.
So talking to you beforehand, it seems like you're an active member of the community. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, I like to talk a lot of shit.
Talking to you beforehand, it seems like you're an active member of the community. Tell us a bit about that.
Before I actually started getting into the game properly, I actually got into bantering with the community itself. I used to join a lot of random lodges, and I used to talk shit to them on Discord for fun. I mean, it's kind of like, it sounds a bit lame, but when it gets down to it, I'm only in the position I am in now because of my ability to network. And that's not me hamming this up. It's just me saying that because I got so involved with the community and with the people, because I do truly believe it's the people that make the game. And that's what makes the game engaging for me. That has allowed me to kind of want to push my own boundaries and get to the position I am in this game, to actually get good at it, in a sense.
What would you like to see added to the game next?
Well, I'd like that new game mode they keep teasing. That's been going on for a while. Aside that, an extended campaign, because they've been advertising that too for quite some time, and all we've got is a tutorial, and I think they could do a lot with it. They've already got the events, they've already got the bosses, the raid bosses. I think they could add more campaign content, and I don't think it'll be too hard. So I'd like to see that, I think. Would
you like to do a shout out to any players?
Yeah, Mr. Midnight's in my DMs right now, and he wants a shout out because I told him I was doing this. So shout out to that. Also, shout out my teammates, they're doing an excellent job. Shout out to Nasran, my lodge master. Shout out to Pirate Lahiho, because he's an excellent dude. I missed you. Do not yell at me, please.
Any social media accounts you'd like to share with the audience?
Not really. I'm just on Discord.
Anyways, thanks for the interview, and best of luck in the rest of the World Cup.
Thank you so much, mate. It was been a pleasure.